This is my journey. Inspired one story at a time, a library of leaders was created. It began as a journey to learn. As time went on, it began to grow. All it needed was a platform, and this podcast was created to listen, to inspire, to share. I am a storyteller, and this is my journey. Welcome to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. I am your host, Steve Anderson, and today our guest is Tim Rexius, and he is proof that grit beats privilege every time. From sleeping in his car and heating ketchup packets for soup to building an international brand now sold in over 6,000 retailers across 13 countries. Tim is a serial entrepreneur who's cracked the code on scaling with zero outside investment. He's the powerhouse behind 4 companies, including the booming Omaha Protein Popcorn Company, a snack brand created to serve the 95% of people overlooked by the health food industry. That's kids, parents, and people who just want to eat better without sacrificing taste. With 20 plus years of experience in health and nutrition, international sales, and brick-and-mortar retail, Tim now brings his passions to stages across the country, delivering 30 plus keynotes a year to students, entrepreneurs, business leaders hungry for real world and no BS advice. What sets Tim apart? He doesn't just talk the talk. He balances it all. 4 companies, 6 kids, and a thriving marriage and speaking engagements that light up high schools, boardrooms, and convention halls alike. So Tim, welcome to the program. It's great to have you on today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So let's give a little context. We heard a little bit in the bio, but it sounds like you had a rough start. So just kind of tell us where you grew up, kind of a little bit about what happened when you were down, and now you're just killing it. So let's hear the story.
I grew up in Norfolk, Nebraska. It's northeast Nebraska. Great family, good mom, stepdad, brothers, and with my parents, it was when you were out, you were out. You got to figure it out. And I didn't understand it back then. You know, but in the hindsight, that what that taught me is to be self-reliant, to bet on yourself, to figure things out. One thing led to another. Mistakes. You're young, you're dumb, 19, 20, and you think you're indestructible. Led me to sleeping in my 1983 Oldsmobile, which I have a picture of it when I speak at high schools. And one kid goes, "That's a big car." I go, "That's how we used to build them back in the day." They didn't drive down the highway; they glided, so it was closer to a 2-bedroom apartment. Those 38-foot long Oldsmobiles.
Yeah.
I really did. I had the choice of paying rent or starting my first company, and I chose to start my first company. I started a lawn mowing service, and I got pretty dissolute there for a while. And the ketchup pack story is true. We jacked some ketchup packets from McDonald's in Runza. It's a Midwest restaurant. Heated up in water, and that was our tomato soup. But I think that really defined the rest of my professional career for the next 30 years was, I knew what it was like to really be hungry. And, it makes me focus on the more important things and not the little trivial material things. And I started working at General Nutrition Center back in high school and in college. I needed a discount. I was a college football athlete, and supplements were expensive, and so I went to that store every day for 14 days until the guy finally hired me. And it's led to a very good career in nutrition and health and sports nutrition, and they were great mentors. And I loved selling, and I loved being able to help people look good and feel good. I always, in all the years I've been doing this, I tell the universities and the business organizations, make your passion your paycheck. And if you ever help somebody lose 100 pounds, it's the look on their face, the look in their life, and how it changes that. I just found that to be very honorable. And down to a micro space, when we own gyms, we own nutrition stores, we own nutraceutical brands, we own obviously a protein snack brand, and helping people find their own piece of greatness has always been fun. But coming out of college, and nothing against my college, but I think a lot of people will attest to this, is I had a lot of book knowledge and absolutely zero real world knowledge when it came to, finding financing, alternative financing measures. I don't come from a rich family. Even if they did, they weren't going to co-sign a loan. And I wanted to go into nutrition. I just didn't have the wherewithal, the knowledge, or financially to start it. So I actually got a job working on in industrial chemicals, and I ended up working on pandemic outbreaks for about 6.5 years. Thank God it wasn't during COVID.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that would have sucked, but I was West Nile virus, and when I give speeches to high schools, they're like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Good God, you guys are so young." It was a big deal back in the early 2000s, you remember?
Sure.
And I got to do that, and I moved up the ladder very quickly because I've always been able to sell. I make relationships and be authentic and organic, but I realized that there isn't enough money in the world to make me want to deal with politicians. And
Yes.
like first and foremost, I had to do it a lot. And I think it was around 28, 29. I was so stressed and I had a couple ulcers burst. I'm like, I don't care if there's enough money in the world. I mean, going from broke to making a lot of money, it's hard to go back to being broke again. But
Yeah.
um, good and bad for me is I invested all my money in real estate. And then 2008 and 2009 happened.
Perfect
And
time.
now I don't like my job and I'm broke. I'm like, well, I might as well be broke and happy. And I was young enough and dumb enough to go for broke again, and I did. I did go broke. And I started my first nutrition store in Omaha, Nebraska in 2010. And and then I met my now wife, and we went from one state to 5 states of operation in 1 year. Shows you the power of the believing spouse and a team around you, what that can do for you. And between her kids and my kids and the 7 kids together, all of a sudden I've got 6 of them. I'm really not that old. They just grade me. They grade me quick, and we started some gyms, and that turned into quite the dynasty here in Omaha, and started making our own supplements because we had our own stores, and the stores spread to 9 states worth of operations. The gyms, we have 3 major fitness facilities now. And so the popcorn company, I mean, never realized in all my years of business that I would be the popcorn company, the Omaha Protein Popcorn would become the biggest and send me across the world, literally. All because 2 reasons. One, I used to coach athletes. And when these guys would go off the rails on their diet for a weekend, they go so far off the rails, they gain 20 pounds in a weekend. It would take me 3 weeks to get them back. And then two, the major, I mean, there's so many blessings to having as many kids as I do. One, it'll keep you working, that's for sure.
Yeah,
And two is, as I've gotten older, my younger kids, maybe my older kids, I was stricter, but I think a lot of parents can relate to this. And as you get older and you have a few younger ones, you get a little more easygoing.
yeah.
And I don't want to negotiate with, at the time was a 6-year-old because it's like negotiating with a terrorist. And I'm just not interested. So the only protein that kid was getting, it's my second youngest, Noah, was in the form of chicken nuggets and chocolate milk or Red Baron pizzas. And where I was eating prep food, I was lifetime bodybuilder. And now my youngest now is 6. And now I got a grandbaby too. It's there's parts of our population that just aren't going to eat a protein bar, right? They're not going to drink a shake. My parents, I mean, since they retired, all they do is drink and golf, and I applaud that. I can't wait for that someday. But they're them too. They're not going to eat protein bars and shakes. I mean, the equivalent of my dad getting protein is hitting a hot dog up at the pro shop when he's done swinging 18, and they're just not going to make those certain sacrifices. And my brothers, they're doctors. They're not making those sacrifices either. And they say that 5% of the population is really into the health and wellness. They're going to eat the bars. They're going to think they're good. And we figured out that popcorn is the number one confectionery snack item in the world in every country. And as I've got
Wow.
to travel the globe, I've really got to witness that. So let's take a spin on it. So 600 batches. In fact, I got a bag here. 600 batches over the first year to finally invent the caramel corn because I
Wow.
knew if it tasted healthy, and everybody knows what that means,
Yeah,
gritty, maybe smells like kale, that my
yeah,
kids were never going to eat it. And we kind of had a eureka moment where like, oh my God, like we use the highest grade protein in the world. Most protein snacks use the lowest grade, and we're going to do it different. I'm going to build it the way I would want it. And it's got to taste good. So we put it out at Christmas, knowing that if I told my family it was healthy, they'd never even try it.
for
And
sure.
my brothers and the doctors and then my kids, they just kill. It's the best caramel corn ever. I'm like, oh, is it? And then it was my older brother was like, oh God, this is healthy, isn't it? I said, yeah, but you didn't know. And then daughters, if anybody has the illustrious honor of having daughters, God knows I got 3 of them. They kept bringing home gigantic bags of Smart Pop white cheddar, I think just to upset me. And so I got to work in the lab and we invented their white cheddar, which is actually our number one global seller in 16 countries right now. And I knew I wouldn't get an honest response. So I took a bag of her Smart Pop white cheddar. I emptied it. I filled it with mine and I resealed it with her hair straightener. Left it on the kitchen counter to get an honest response. And they killed it. And same thing. And now we got 8 flavors. We've launched into 20,000 C stores here in the US domestically. We're in probably 10,000 retailers in Canada. We're producing it in 4 languages. We just got back from the Cayman Islands 4 weeks ago, launched it there in the Caribbean. And last week we launched it in Mexico. So, and yeah, we've got the Costa Rica show in Venezuela coming up soon. And it's been a lot of fun. And, I got to learn how to getting to go into a whole list of new things and different people. In fact, I got to represent the Made in America initiative last year, and I got to fly to Dubai and present the Omaha Protein Popcorn to the UAE. Now, there's not too many snacks from the United States that are allowed in the Middle East because most of our snacks here, even our protein snacks, don't make health standards. Well, we do because the way we make it's healthy and it's high quality and it meets macronutrients and nutrients. And then I thought at that time, as I was telling you earlier about popcorn being the number one confectionery snack item in the world, I did not know that at that time. I thought popcorn was an American thing.
Yeah.
So my very first speech in front of a very wealthy billionaire who owns grocery stores in like 16 countries was I was explaining how popcorn's made. And this guy let me go for a while. And he goes, Sir, the Crown Prince here in Dubai owns the popcorn manufacturing facility in Dubai. I go, oh. So
You do know
ignorance,
that.
arrogance, and
Yeah.
so popcorn really is it's a big thing. And that's why we launched into gas stations. And somebody else asked me, why gas stations? And I'm like, because gas stations are the demographic-less institution. Young, old, in shape, not in shape, everyone's going to get gas.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to get snacks. And it just proves that it's a demographic-less snack. And there are 7 gas stations to every grocery store in the United States and 12 gas stations to every grocery store in the world. It's the largest sales channel on the planet. So
Wow.
it's been fun and just it's new,
Yeah.
It's for me, it's been fun and doing grocery conferences and truck stop conferences and it just, after you've been in business for so many years, it's kind of nice when you get to do something new. So,
So I'm sure there's a lot of science behind it and
Mhm.
all the experiments and whatever, but basically, are you just taking protein powder and flavoring it? Is that what gives it
No, it's a complicated process because it's like with the caramel, it's going to be mixed in at a certain temperature at a certain time, exactly at a certain viscosity. Otherwise, you'll destroy the protein molecule. You do it too late, and then it's gritty, and then only the meatheads. And I can say that because I own 3 gyms. I am a meathead. I like to lift weights. It's a term of endearment. So I'll
Yeah.
eat it, but my kids won't. You do it too soon, then technically the protein dissolves and it doesn't actually exist. And so then it's also removing like traditional caramel corn. Almost all of them have high fructose corn syrup. They're GMO. They have gluten. Well, we removed the gluten, so we're no gluten free. We're non-GMO. I removed all the high fructose corn syrup. I don't use degenerated protein. I only use highest grade. And so it took a lot of science. My background's biomechanical engineering, which is why I worked in the pandemic field. So I have a background in science and I'm a giant nerd. So I figured why not? And then, the cheddar is a little bit different. We use organic refractionated coconut oil. So it checks all the boxes for pregnant and nursing moms and they love it. And the nutrients were built for pre and post workout for athletes. And it turns out that soccer moms and grandmas love our popcorn more than even athletes do. And good for
Yeah.
me is having a wife and a bunch of daughters. I see how many Amazon and TikTok packages show up at my house. So they're my target demographics.
That's
Yeah.
so now, and you did all this bootstrapping. You didn't get any outside financing. So why, first of all, how do you do that and make it as global as it is without outside financing and why go that route?
Well, I mean, this year we brought on investors for the popcorn just for marketing purposes. It's the first time I've ever done that. And it more or less was a bunch of guys whose kids got obsessed with my popcorn and reached out. They go, if my kids are going to eat this much, I got to have a piece of this. I'm like, cool. And the thing is that I didn't do any marketing. In fact, we just started running ads on popcorn 6 months ago for the first time. We were in a dozen countries before I ran an ad. And I think a lot of it's got to be said is I've been around the nutrition and wellness space for 20 plus years. And this is what I try to explain to high schools and the universities. And I think you'll relate to this because when we came up, there weren't smartphones. There wasn't even texting. I mean,
Yeah.
that wasn't a thing. I had a Nokia phone that weighed about 40 pounds and had an hour battery life. And so when you went to places and you went to conferences, you had to make an impression and you had to create relationships when you met people, when you did a conference or a trade show. And I've been very good at keeping up with people, keeping in touch and email when that first came out and using that tool. And so I still take those same old school adages, which I don't think are outdated. I think they're underrated.
Mhm.
Your ability to meet somebody at an airport, restaurant or a bar, make a relationship, trade a business card, and do business. And so when we came out with this product, it was pretty easy for me to call guys I've met in Australia and that I've met in Canada and I've met in Mexico over the years of doing business. Say, hey, I got a new product. I'd like you to carry it. And they go, well, of course. And
Yeah.
that's just how it is. And if you make it good enough and people actually enjoy it, and then utilizing the fact when social media did become prevalent, those same skill sets you use to create relationships and whatnot are still relevant. You just get to do it on a larger scale. And so all of a sudden, Tim throws up a pop. Hey, I got this new thing on an Instagram or a Facebook post. My same friends I met 20 years ago before cell phones existed. They're like, hey, I'll do that. Cool. And
Mhm.
then and that's areas. Why'd you do the US last? I go, because I find business in other countries a lot easier. I find that you meet with an owner in Saudi Arabia or Kuwait, you make a deal and it's done. Where US companies, it has to be media driven and that costs money. And so finally, once we hit a level of success this last year, I was like, okay, maybe we'll bring on some investors and we'll do some heavy marketing and we'll do some AI and start bringing in some of the new age stuff that I before had fought against. But also, lesson learned, the amount of stuff that shows up at my house from TikTok and Amazon and Instagram from the females in my household, I'm like, okay, there's something here. How do I do it? And so that's kind of been the journey this year. But like with the gyms, we've never run an ad. In 9 years, we built a multi-million-dollar fitness complex, chain here, just based on doing things right. And I still think Chamber of Commerce meetings and coffee and contacts and networking groups, I think all that stuff still works. In fact, I think it works better than it ever has.
Well, obviously you're a great relationship builder. When I hear your story, the word that comes to mind is resilience. I mean, you said you went every day for 14 days into the GNC to get a job, and then you also said that you slept in your car. I mean, a lot of people would have given up, done something different. This isn't working. Where does that resilient, never say die attitude come from?
Well, when you are homeless, that it's you either figure it out or you die. I mean, it really is. I mean, it gets cold in Nebraska. Okay, it's not. This ain't the tropics, so you got to
Yeah.
figure something out. You're going to freeze to death. And two, I read a story, probably when I was 16 or 17, about Colonel Sanders, the Kentucky Fried Chicken. If you've ever heard this story, I think it's one of the greatest stories of American history and fortitude that's ever existed. The guy was 65. He retired, got his first Social Security check for, I don't know what it was, $165. And he's like, this sucks. I mean, the guy was a maintenance guy, he was an electrician.
Yeah.
And what do I have? Well, I got a chicken recipe that people like. So the guy went around to chicken restaurants in the South and was like, hey, I don't even want you to buy it from me. I just want you to give me a piece of the profit from every piece of chicken you sell my recipe. And everybody said, you're nuts. You look like Santa Claus of the summer. Get out of here. And the story goes, and I do this in high schools a lot, he had 1,009 no's before he got his first yes. And I
Wow.
don't even know if I have the tenacity and resilience to go. I think I'd hit 500. I'm pretty stubborn. A
Yeah.
1,009, like that's nuts. But then within 5 years, it's the largest restaurant chain in the world.
Yeah.
And it's no different than Ray Kroc's really starting in his late 40s, and with McDonald's. And um, I don't know. I just all the heroes that I guess that I looked up to, every one of those stories was stories of absolute resilience. I mean, even Jeff Bezos. You go back looking through Amazon. I mean, the guy paid himself the same salary for the first 10 years of Amazon, and they weren't
Yeah.
even making money. I mean, they were dead in the water. They were just burning through cash. And I don't know. My brother and I always had an expression. My older brother, and if anybody else has the pleasure of having an older brother, he used to beat the hell out of you. I did, and it was more or less, I better learn how to fight, or I'm gonna learn. I got to learn how to bleed with more class. And I'll give that to my older brother. I mean, we were 2 years apart in age, and just old enough to be able to beat me until about teenage years, but close enough in age that I'm still trying to compete with him. And I don't know. It's just I wanted to make a name for myself. I was more concerned about legacy and people wanting to know who I am, and just the same exact attitude I took towards sports is that
Yeah,
it's on me, and I want to be successful. I like the attention and I like to win, and my
yeah.
son, I have a 13-year-old son who is a clone, and I get paid back for the mouth portion of it. But it's also good. And he goes, "What drives you?" And I said, "Winning." He's like,
Yeah,
"Yeah." I go, "I think winning. It doesn't have to be winning in the sense of the term I won the gold medal, but try to win every day, win something every day, that attitude." And I tell my staff, we don't say good job, we say congratulations. It has a different connotation to it.
yeah.
And just little things like that, it's just self-motivated. And I told my wife that I will eventually learn how to take a vacation. Um, it's I'm not great at it. I just don't. I like to work. I like what I do. And after 6.5 years of doing something I didn't enjoy, it makes me appreciate the opportunity I have right now that I get to do. I look forward to Monday morning. If there is ever a point in time where that changes, then I'll find something else to do.
Well, through your stories, we can certainly hear there's the sales piece for sure. You know how to
Yeah.
sell something. You got the sales, but now that you've got these companies and all these other people involved in whatever, now you've got to manage people as well. And I think maybe in one of your keynotes or something, I ran across hearing you say that strong leadership and culture, is what really gets growth to happen. It's not just pound, 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 sale, sale,
Yeah.
sale. You've got to have an organization that has a great culture. So again, is that something that you do intentionally? Do you have leadership programs? Do you work with peers, or do you feel like it's just you lead by example and you just go for it?
It's kind of a mix of both, honestly. I mean, when I was with the chemical company and moving up the ladder, it was great. But there were still over corporatization, which I don't like. You're too young for this position. Well, it doesn't matter if I'm too young. Have I killed it? Have I crushed the goals? Have I done this? And so I didn't want to be married to this old, outdated corporate structure. At the same point, I had hired guys at that company that had 3 master's degrees and couldn't turn on a forklift. And
Yeah,
then I hired guys who had a GED and just were killers. I'm like, okay, I just want to kind of think outside the box. Let's forget education. Let's find talent. Who's got talent? If somebody's got a work ethic and they got talent, I'll work with that. And it kind of molded over the years that, like, I never wanted to be do as I say, not as I do. I just drove me nuts. Anybody who's ever worked in big corporate America who's had that manager right above them that if you started to outdo them, they'd put you down. In fact, my oldest son's working in my warehouse right now in logistics. I had him get a job at a big company, big electronics company, last year during the holidays because I knew he'd hate it. Um, well, he'd only work for me, and I'm like, you don't understand how cool of a boss I am until you go work for
yeah,
somebody else.
yeah. You got to see what's on the other
A-
side.
And what happened to him was he outsold his managers, so they started shrinking his hours down because he was out doing them. And it was highlighting their insecurities and their lack of work ethic. So instead of facing that and rising to the challenge, we're going to keep him down because we're the middle manager and they'll make us look bad. And
Yeah,
I go, that redefines what I'm doing. So what I've really changed over the years is if I'm going to pour this time into somebody and I find that talent, I need to find a way to lock them down. I don't want to just be a page in their storybook. I want to partner them up. So almost every franchise we have for the nutrition company, almost every business partner I have in any of the businesses we own are former employees of mine. I look at employment of people differently than most, and I think this is a trend that should be starting is when you employ somebody, that is a long-term job interview for a future business partner. And if you look at it through that lens, it changes how you train them, it changes how the responsibilities you give them. It takes away certain levels of control that you might otherwise want to have. I'll give them budgets. What do they do when their money's not theirs? Do they treat it like it's theirs, or do they like, oh, I got the boss's debit card, it's time to swipe? Okay, well, that's not somebody I want to be a business partner. I'm going to give them, I'm going to let everyone from 18 to 48, depending on the age group, like, what's your idea? Like, let's come up with something. And you got to think of it differently. 18-year-olds have just as many valid opinions as 48-year-olds do. because they're reaching to a different network and a different demographic that as a 40 something year old, I shouldn't be in. It'd be weird if I was in the circle of 18-year-olds. That make me the weird old guy. I don't want that. So they have valid opinions. And by doing that, I've found ways like just pour into them, lock them down, give them an opportunity. So everyone
So
that
are you
works here,
saying you're creating ownership mentality with actual ownership? You're giving them a
yep,
piece of the pie.
I'm giving everybody, even the guy in the warehouse owns a portion of the company. So if I end up getting a big buyout, a big merger acquisition for the popcorn company, for instance, it's, I mean, functional food brands are some of the hottest acquisitions in the market over the last 10 years. And there's a high probability that probably will be acquired. Well, that warehouse guy, let's say he owns a percentage and we sell for 200 million, he gets 2 million bucks. And
Yeah.
by doing that, you get people who are willing to do ownership level things that you're not going to get from somebody working a 9 to 5. They understand that there's more to it. They're going to write a thank you card on that receipt for every package they ship. They're going to understand that, if there's Amazon and Shopify direct to consumer orders on a Saturday, it's not shipping today, but that customer needs that notification. Hey, your package is ready for shipping. Your package is being dropped off at the post office. That those little things matter that an owner cares about. That, hey, the toilet's running. There's a water bill that somebody has to pay. I wish I could get all my kids to understand that at my own house. Somebody's paying for that water bill. And all of a sudden, what I have is 200 little owners running around checking the light bill, making sure everything's clean and creating that ownership mentality. And it's something obviously I don't keep every employee that's 'cause I don't have that many businesses, but they're all of a sudden 5, 10 years down the road, they're in positions where we can do a co-brand, we can do a collaboration on something and grow each other together. And so I'm literally looking at not just ownership principles, I'm looking for owners.
Yeah.
And so when I speak at these high schools, it's good for me. One, I like to do it. And you got to be what you needed at that age. I mean, you and I remember, I mean, it was different, obviously different times, but we just need somebody to speak into us a little bit, give us that level of encouragement, give us a roadmap, give us a way to make that thing happen. And in every speech I give to you, it can be 1,200 kids in an auditorium. There'll be 2 or 3 kids after that speech who walk up. They go, "How do I do what you do?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "Well, my welcome to the family. You're about to find out." And
Yeah.
I found some really talented people, and it's different now because I'm older than when I started all this, and I got a lot more gray hair. And I told them that to quit calling me sir because it makes me feel old. And what now? My family's working in the business. My daughter's one of my assistants. My other daughter's helping do graphic design. Son's in the warehouse. Son-in-law helps out with marketing. It's been fun in that aspect, and they all start at the bottom too. They all work their way in just like everybody else does.
So you said in the bio, it said you give 30 plus keynotes a year. And so
Yep.
you just mentioned that you talk with high school students, but you also do conferences and
Yep.
businesses. So what is the message in those? Do they differ depending on the audience, or is the message pretty much the same?
A difference. It differs really. I mean, it's the high schools and universities. It's motivation, it's business. How'd you get started? And a lot of times, especially in the universities, or some of the business classes and even the high schools, they'll start getting more specific questions on marketing and AI, on how are you adjusting to the businesses now that are established into the new technology. And I mean, I gave a keynote speech at a farmers association of all things a couple of years ago with this farmers group that was launching a different kind of antioxidant berry, and nobody knows how to market it. These farmers don't want to market, they want to farm. And
Yeah.
just saying like, hey, here's how you guys would do this. Like, here's how you can do things, and here's how you can organize, and make things trend. Like, what does that mean? And just so it kind of depends on what I'm asked to speak on. And I gave a speech to a concierge association out in Las Vegas, how to make your lasting relationships in 180 seconds. How do you make an impression? Like, what's the process? How do you do it? How do you be authentic? I mean, because a lot of people come off too polished, and then people start to hold their wallet and think they're getting talked into something like a used car salesman, and just how to make impactful relationships, and how I've done what I've done. I think a lot of times the story is like, how did you do this? I mean,
Well, and I think especially in today's world, I mean, there's so many of our population that don't have the hope that maybe you and I did when we were younger. And, our parents told us, if you work hard and you do what you need to do, you can do anything. And some of that seems to have been lost. So I'm sure that message resonates with people now, like, holy crap, maybe I can do something like this.
Well, it's twofold, right? I got guys in their 40s who were, hey, got the college degree like we were told, and this is going to be that, and they find themselves 25, 30 years into their career not liking where they're at, but they're afraid to make the change. I'm afraid to make a switch, and it's I call it um, debt debt and servitude, right? Because now you've got the mortgage, you got all these things. I can't make a change because I've got all this lifestyle I'm trying to keep up for the family. And what does that look like? So I get to speak into that a little bit. And then I get the younger kids. And unfortunately, this is the negative of social media, is that they're given this impression that all these people are driving around in Maseratis at 24 and they're already a failure. So what it has done is it's sped up this perception of success and failure to a degree that's unobtainable, that's not even real. And now AI makes it worse because, I spoke to a group of high school, 18, 19-year olds there a couple weeks ago, and they're like, well, this guy, no, he's already making $1 million. He's not. I
Yeah.
just I get to kill that impression that they're getting. I go, trust me, I've been around a lot, and I don't know anybody who's truly successful who has not worked their face off. I don't. I've been around all these things, and I'm telling you right now, it takes work. But if it's something you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like work. And if it's yours, it really doesn't feel like work. It's still work. It's still busy, but it's still yours. And it depends on what it is. And I agree. Back when I was in high school, and I had the blessing of people saying, like, you guys can do anything, and now it's, if you don't do this in the next 3 years, you're gonna miss the mark. And I think
Yeah.
social media in that aspect's a negative because they're pitching, and what it is a sales pitch to go buy my program, and in 3 years you won't have missed the mark, and you won't have all these years of regrets, and it's all BS. And I've been hearing that over and over again for 12 years. If you don't do this, you're not going to be successful. If you don't jump on this platform, you're going to miss the mark. And I get to go out and dispel those myths. And I think that's awesome because, a lot of people get very discouraged very easily right now,
Yeah.
thinking that they missed the mark. Oh, I missed out on Bitcoin. Well, listen, so did I. I, if I could go back 15 years and say, hey, go buy a couple thousand of these bad boys, I would
Yeah.
have. Guess what? I'm still successful and I'm not losing sleep at night because I skipped on the Bitcoin. It is what it is. And I didn't jump on social media as fast as everyone else did. I didn't jump on
Well,
Instagram or Facebook. I didn't even know what it was.
well, this is
Um,
going to be released a little bit down the road from where we're recording this, but just today I saw where Australia is the first Western country that went out and banned social media for anybody under 16. And it's a bold move, but I think most of us could probably say that's probably not a bad idea. You can't vote till you're 18, you can't drink till you're 21, you can't drive until you're 16. So why should we just say, well, we can't do anything about social media?
and that's just it. I've got a 6-year old and I got a 13-year-old and then 18, 19, 20, and 25, and I've got them spread all over the place. And it's at the end of the day, it's like we don't let them have social media any at all until a certain age, and then it's very minuscule at best, and kind of let them adapt to it and learn to deal with it. And my 13-year-old son's got some social media stuff, but I told him, why can't I have this? I go, can I be very honest with you? He's like, yeah. I go, you're really stupid. And he goes, what? I go, you're a 13-year-old boy. Your hormones are raging and you're wired to do dumb, dumb things. And 30-year-old you in 17 years is going to look back at you and go, that was a bad idea. I go, the difference was when I was 13, we didn't have this stuff. It wasn't on camera. Your mom might have a picture of you with that really bad haircut that you thought was going to be so cool. And thank God it's buried in a Polaroid someplace in a box that my mother is never allowed to share with anyone. And I go, so you guys have this whole thing sped up and everything you're doing is on record. And we all did a lot of dumb stuff, especially boys at 13 and 14 and 15 that we probably, in hindsight, go, God, that was dumb. The
Yeah.
problem is that you have it on record.
Yeah.
And I want to prevent you from having those regrets that are going to happen because you're 13 and you're dumb. And, I wanted a barbed wire tattoo on my arm and something. Thank God my parents didn't let me do that. Because, I wasn't making the best choices at 13. The common sense was not there yet. And I agree. And it's, I've told the high schools it's catchful. I mean, once you're 17, Once you can drive a car that's 3,000 pounds at 80 miles an hour, okay. If I'm
Yeah.
trusting you to do that, we should have this conversation. And I expect my employees to be able to handle the cell phone, their personal life and their professional life at the same time, use it as a tool. That's what it is, not a crutch. And now you're going to start talking AI. I mean, the explosion of this on the scene for these kids, I mean, can you imagine if that stuff was around back when we were in high school and college? I mean, good God. I mean, I don't know if I'd have wrote a paper. Um, you know, I it's at the same point, I said, it's hard to put up safeguards. We can't, it's hard for us to hinder
Can't,
technology.
can't
And
control everything, that's for sure.
but
So
if
speak,
I'm raising the kids with the right morals and values, and the work ethic, I think they'll use it for their advantage.
yeah, that's awesome. So speak a little bit to what you have said before, that storytelling as a leadership tool. So obviously you can tell a good story. Is that something that you actually teach people or encourage them to do? In the intro to this
Yeah.
podcast, I identify as a storyteller myself. So I certainly believe in it, but I just want you to talk to it how you see it in your businesses.
I use it in several aspects, with my staff and with our customers, both. Your ability to deliver on a storytelling aspect, it can be everything. Delivery is everything. I mean, it's your ability to get people to engage and feel like they're a part of it is huge because then it's believable, it's authentic, it's organic. And I said, and that's my problem with social media is everyone only shows the wins. Storytelling is about the whole thing. And I've done this with my clients and my business coaching clients. And I'm like, hey, you want to, people get down on themselves, right? So I'm like, well, let me tell you a story about when I blew 100 grand doing something stupid. Why? Because it makes me relatable. It's true. It lowers their inhibitions with us getting to down to the truth, which is what we're trying to get to when it comes to sales with a customer, an employee, or a client. It's like, okay, if we can bypass all of the insecurities about getting to the truth, that's when we can build something. And your ability to tell a story it gets to that so much faster. So I do it in the sales atmosphere in the retail. I do it with my wholesale brokers. We do it on every level. I do it with my staff. I'm like, I just interviewed two new kids, and they are kids, they're like 17 years old, for one of my retail locations. And I explained to them, like, hey, here's something dumb I did. Let me explain how this story went. I said, I'm telling you this because you're going to screw up, and I want you to know that's okay. The difference is you got to tell me about it so we can identify the problem immediately, knowing that I've screwed up. I know that you're going to screw up. Now that we know this, we can get to success faster.
Yeah.
And I think the ability to tell that story and deliver it correctly and authentically and organically allows people to, break down barriers much faster. And if you can do that with customers, for instance, from a sales standpoint, you're going to get to that relationship building so much faster versus people putting on that front that, I'm perfect. I don't make mistakes. I don't want you to see my insecurities. If you can get past that through storytelling, you're going to create that actual firm relationship so much easier and so much faster. So I use it in
Yeah.
all aspects from customers, clientele, business partners, and employees. And I try to teach it as much as possible. Um, as my wife will say, I do it everywhere. So if we're in a hurry, I can't go in the gas station because it'll be 20 minutes. She has to go. And because I do, but I think that delivery from a storytelling aspect, um, it just breaks down barriers so much easier than just being matter of fact.
And part of that is being that vulnerable side and be willing
Mhm.
to share your mishaps and whatever. Every person I've ever talked to on this program says the same thing, yet so few people do it. We have to come through like we're perfectionists and like we're perfect and everything we did was right. Well, we know that's not true, and so I don't know why we're so afraid to kind of share when it doesn't happen.
It's one of those that I've purposely done that with social media as much as possible, and using that as a platform to do that. I've done videos. It's a couple of years ago. I had like 8 pallets of boxes, specialty made boxes that are not cheap for the popcorn company. And this is a lesson to measure twice and order once. But I'm like, I already knew it. Like, just get them. Well, that's $50,000 I had to walk by every day for 3 years. So I'm like, let's record a video and show everybody else how dumb I am. And the amount of messages I got from other business owners, just real authentic, being like, dude, thank you so much. Like, you don't know how many times like I just feel like I got to hide that. I go, don't. I said, if you have a company, especially family, the more that people can learn from your mistakes, the less chance they're going to be repeated. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're so embarrassed, are you cool with somebody else doing the same thing and wasting another 50,000? Because that's just stupid. I mean, that's you might as well learn as a group, you know. And I do the same with my staff. They know that it's a safe place. They can come tell me. And I make fun of myself more than anyone else. And so we find a place to laugh about it and learn from it. And I think that makes us all sharper. And so I've taken it to another level where I'm like, let's produce a video. Let's put captions to make sure everybody knows how much I screwed up. That way it's people understand that. And I think I got a lot of business coaching clients because of it, because I didn't pretend to be this, infallible business owner. I'm relatable in that aspect because like, hey, okay, I've screwed up a bunch and I'm still at the bottom. How do I get to where you're at since you've already screwed up and you've been successful? It makes me relatable in that aspect.
You got so much going on and have had some good success. And as we talked about, 6 kids and 4 companies, and you already admitted you don't take vacations. So, is it possible to have well-being, to take care of yourself, and also have a family and also have a successful business?
I absolutely. I don't believe in work-life balance. I don't think it really exists. We've done something and it's something I still struggle with. The good thing about my wife is she'll tell me, which sometimes you don't
Yeah.
want to know. But we have family meetings. We try to do it as often as possible, but at least once a quarter, family dinner. We sit everyone down and their boyfriends or their girlfriends or the son-in-laws, everybody. Even if my oldest daughter and my son-in-law live in Phoenix, they'll zoom in, and we have family meeting. And I say, here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. This is why it's important. Here's the goal, so that the family can completely buy into what I'm doing. And I make it very poignant to them. Like, if there's something important to you, I need you to tell me. You need to put it in a calendar. We have 7 calendars. They're all shared. My kids get to see where I'm at all times. They know if I'm in a podcast. They know if I'm in, we were just in 2 countries. I have like 5 more countries to go in states, and they know where I'm at. So they know I'm busy, but they also know if my daughter's like, I have a show choir thing on Sunday. It's at 7 p.m. I'm like, I'll be there. And for them, it almost makes it where they appreciate it even more that I'm there because they know how busy I am, but it also shows them that, hey, you are important. Um, I don't, taking care of yourself, you got to take care of your physicality. You got to take care of your spirituality, both. And if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way to make it work. I mean, I work 80, 90 hours a week, but I like it. And I got to fit in a workout between 9:45 and 10:12 a.m. Okay, I'm not breaking records, but I'm going to go get something done. Keep an extra change of clothes here. So if I got to do a podcast, I don't look all sweaty and nasty. But you can make it work if you really want to. It's just, like the last trip to Mexico. I mean, listen, man, I live in Nebraska. It's cold here right now.
Yeah.
So I had to work for 4 straight days, but my kids didn't. So we had 11 flights for, yeah, not free.
11.
11 between the kids, the boyfriends, the son-in-law, everybody, all the kids, the grandbaby. I flew everybody down to Mexico. Well, I went and worked for 4 days, and they got to have a beach vacation. They got to go shop and do all those things. They got to be there for the media nights with the cameras and the press, and we all got to walk. They got to walk the red carpet with me, which was fun. And then they got to go party hard. Well, I got to go work. I'm fine with it. I think as a dad and as a husband, I'm willing to take those arrows so they can have a good time. And so those opportunities arise where they get to come with me while I work, and get to reap some of the rewards. I think that's awesome. So if you make your kids part of the adventure, you make your family part of it, it's no longer an adversarial position. They're part of it. Like my 6-year-old tells, he'll only wear like company logoed shirts, Rexius Nutrition, popcorn, one of the gyms to school. Like he's in first grade and he's got to tell his friends, oh, my dad owns that. My mom and dad own that gym, and he's got to flex on them, right? He's going to bring the popcorn. It's actually great because now his entire class, all their parents are buying popcorn all the time for their kids' lunchbox. So it's a really good strategy. My
Yeah.
13-year-old, he's in baseball and he's phenomenal. And so, if everybody knows about travel baseball, it's a full-time job. And so, yeah, we sponsor the team. There's, Omaha Protein Popcorn's on the banner, and he also understands I'm going to make every game I can, but I cannot make everything. And so, working as a team with the kids and my wife and making sure that we're at everything. And if you want it bad enough, you'll figure out a way to make it work. And,
Yeah.
so that's the beautiful thing about technology, though, right? Like they
Yeah.
can Zoom and FaceTime me anytime they want, and they know where I'm at. We don't make it a mystery. They know where I'm at. They know what I'm doing. But if there's something important to them, I make sure they know that I will figure out a way to make sure I'm there.
Well, you seem like such a positive person. Another thing I read that you apparently stated was, that you took pain and turned it into purpose and profit. So, what's the pain? What are you thinking of when you say that?
I've been broke to rich to broke three times, and that it's painful. Anybody's been to a financial reversal, it's right up there with divorce and death. Um, and you take those pains from things. I went through a divorce, obviously, with my first, and then met my now wife, and we have a blended family. And I mean, everybody's been through that. It sucks. You can turn it into purpose, and I find that, and that's why the health and wellness field's so personal to me, and that's why I like the businesses I'm in. Is that people work out not for vanity, they work out to quiet the pain, to overcome it, turn it into power, help each person to find that piece of greatness. And I've been able to do that. And every time I've gone broke from stupid mistakes, stupid spending, there's a million reasons. I mean, you can blame the economies, and not like that hasn't helped me at times or hurt me, but they're lessons. And once you get clarity, you get that 35,000-foot point of view. You sit back, okay, what did I learn from this? And if you really sit back and don't blame other people for mistakes, and be like, sometimes it is out of your hands, but like, okay, well, why was I in that position? Why? I mean, yeah, okay, I can't control what happens with COVID lockdowns, but what could I have done better before? What could I have done better before that to prepare my companies and my family and myself for something like that happening? I mean, it's the same thing with the real estate crash. What could I have done differently? Supply chain issues we had in 23 and 24 were the worst I've ever seen. What could I have done better to prevent certain financial, devastations that happened? I just really think I have an ability to compartmentalize, remove the feelings from it, and look at it from an analytical point of view and be like, okay, yeah, this all sucks, but there's lessons to be learned here. And that makes me sharper. It increases my business acumen and makes me more prepared. So the next storm that hits, I'm like, okay, I've already gone through this, this, and this. I'm ready, and maybe all my competitors aren't. And that will allow me to gain a disproportionate amount of market share because I learned the lesson last time.
So it sounds like you really understand business cultures and family cultures. So when you go to different parts of the world, Middle East or Europe
Mhm.
or Asia or whatever, doing your thing, do you have to change your story or your pitch or your approach in some ways based on the culture that you're dealing with?
Oh, that is a great question. Yes. First time I went to Dubai, absolutely beautiful. Right. It's an absolutely beautiful place. But I want to be respectful of everyone else's culture. I talk a lot, and when you talk as much as I do, and usually I like when I do podcasts, I don't even want to know the questions ahead of time. I want it to be as authentic and organic as possible. And I usually don't freeze ever, so I kind of like that where we're rolling off the questions. You're getting a real response from me. I do this in public speeches too. But over there, it's illegal to swear in public. It's a $160,000 fine and up to 2 years in prison. And I've been trying not to swear because I have kids who mimic everything I say, but you're worried about it, right? And I'm a big guy, and I also have tattoos. I also understand that a good portion of the business community there is Muslim owned, where tattoos are more uncouth. So I'm like, okay, well, let's prepare for that. So let's wear long black sleeves in a 104-degree temperature. I lost 12 pounds that trip, just sweating. So it was really good for the weight loss, but could I say, well, screw it. I'm me. I'm from America. This is who I am. Sure. But I'm on their turf. I've got to adapt to their culture and I've got to be respectful of it and be a little more cautious with some things I say. And here's the beautiful thing about when I went over there and I got to meet all these countries. We have a lot more in common than separates us. I mean, we can always think that, but until you see it firsthand, it really is amazing. And you get to know these guys and you talk to them for an hour or two, and all of a sudden their guard starts to come down a little bit, and they start asking me questions about what's on our news here because
Yeah.
their entertainment is our news. They find it's like Jerry Springer for them. Like it's like watching a talk show. Is it really true that, this and that? And they start asking you questions. They're like, wait, you have six kids? Is that normal for Americans? I go, no, it's definitely not normal. I'm in a class of my own, and you realize that they're just guys trying to put food on the table for their families too. and we
Yeah.
really do have a lot more in common. I'm very proud of my Christian faith, and at the same point, like they're very proud of their Muslim faith, and so there were a few faith conversations, and and I'm just trying to look at it from a point of respect, the same way I would want to be respected for believing something different from somebody else. And it's never been an issue. In every culture we go into, you're always cautious, especially when my family comes with me on some of these trips, because I'm like, I don't know the safety mechanisms. We don't have the same rights. And, like my 13-year-old, he's got my mouth, but doesn't have my experience yet. So I got to make sure with him, I'm like, keep your mouth shut, like, you don't, like, this ain't America. And so it's been fun actually being able to represent our country into other, countries and communities, and learning about other people's, it's like my marketing director's from Canada. And I don't know, a little while ago, he's like, we're celebrating Thanksgiving. I'm like, don't you have to wait till November? He's like, you arrogant American. He goes, Thanksgiving's now. Your fake Thanksgiving's in November. I'm like, oh, okay. And it's just fun. And I got to do the Olympia Natural about a month ago. There were 70 countries worth of athletes. So we made connections in Germany and Italy and Japan, and just finding out the different cultures and the respect. And I find that you know, by just being open and honest and vulnerable. Literally, like we talked about earlier, explaining some of the mistakes you've made,
Yeah.
um, really lowers the guard of other people from other countries more so than even here, because once they realize you're a real person, you're not trying to intimidate them. You're not trying to say the way they do things is wrong, that you're actually interested. You purposely, intently listen to them, and people respect that. I did a call this morning with Nicaragua, which we'll be expanding into. Um, and it started out like, how'd you get into this? Oh, let me tell you. And he just starts going through all this stuff and finding out he's about to expand his distribution into 4 countries outside of his. And he's like, what do you think about, well, how would you approach this? And then we got to just rap, other than the fact that I was trying to sell the guy stuff.
Yeah.
And finally I said, like, hey, we never really did get a chance to talk about Omaha Protein Popcorn. He goes, oh, we're gonna get it, all of it. Fantastic. That was the last 2 seconds of an hour-long conversation. And so I think about putting the person up front first, especially when you're trying to do international business. It just works a little differently.
Yeah.
And I will find this, that it's enjoyable, because when anybody who's done business in the US who's tried to get into, the Walmarts, and the Targets, and I'm sure as, a smaller company, you found out that there's 60 managers, right, that you're trying to get through, and they all have their own little opinion. Over there, there's a lot more respect when an owner is Zooming or meeting with another owner. You get to business once you make that relationship, and then it's done. There's less middle people,
Yeah.
managers. I also found that like in Dubai, that was so interesting that everyone was fourth or fifth generation. Everyone works where their dad worked, where their grandpa worked. That's all family owned. Even the employees feel they're part of the family, that they work where their dad worked. People don't change jobs. Like here, we change jobs like we change socks every day. And over there, it's in different areas of the country. In most places, it's family wealth. It's second and third generations. And I find that to be so awesome and cool, and something that I wish that it was more prevalent here in the States.
Yeah. So, Tim, in anticipation of our discussion today, is there anything I haven't asked you or anything we haven't covered that you want to be sure and get in the program today?
Ah, I think we covered a lot. And honestly, for me, I know right now, and this is a lot of the questions I get, a lot of existing business owners are scared about the upcoming future with AI being adapted into things. And I tell everybody else, we all said the same thing with cell phones and with computers and with the internet and with Bluetooth. I mean, we've gone social media, then that social media. It's just a new tool. That's all it is. And I don't think it's ever going to replace what we can do with a handshake and a smile, and an ability to cultivate relationships can never be replaced by technology.
Yeah, yeah, well said. Well, at this time in the interview, I always ask my guests the same common question, and that question is, in relation to leadership, what is a pearl of wisdom that you could leave us with today?
Honestly, helping each person find their own piece of greatness. And that doesn't mean just customers, that means employees. That means the people you bank with. That means the people you work with, the people that work for you, the people that you work for. If you help each person find their own piece of greatness, help them become the best version of themselves, you will become the best leader just through that practice.
Yeah, yeah, well said. Well, Tim, it's been a real pleasure. Obviously, you're running all cylinders all the time. Sounds like you're got a lot of great things going, and your story's amazing. So it was great to have you on today and share your insights. And just as we said earlier, share your story with others. That's how we all learn.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be on the show.
Okay, take care, and maybe we'll see each other down the road one of these days.
Sounds great.
Okay, take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. To listen to all my interviews, subscribe to Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and many other popular podcast platforms. Some of these interviews are on video, and you can search YouTube for Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson. You can also access the entire library of interviews on my website, orange.coaching.com, and that is orangetheword.coaching.com, and go to the Media Center and click on Podcasts or Video Gallery. You can also enter the website from pilpodcast.com.